Yes, we're going to call this meeting to order, Utilities Committee meeting. Going to ask Councilman Valentine to do the invocation and follow it. We have a pledge. Members present, Councilman Lambert, myself, Councilman Valentine, Councilman Johnson working, and also Councilman Shakespeare. So we'll have a pledge and invocation and a pledge.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We ask for guidance tonight, Lord, as we look at the parish's business. Father, we ask a special blessing on Kim Bro tonight, Lord, as she is in the hospital. Father, we ask you to comfort her, Lord, and protect her, Lord, and may the situation be resolved, Father, in your name. Father, we ask protection over our employees and our administration and our council, and we ask all these things in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody wishing to speak on anything on the agenda, sign in with the secretary, and you would have 3 minutes to speak. So if anybody want to speak, you need to come sign in right now. Okay, moving right along. I need to move up, close out on the jail project. Mr. Matas has somewhere he has to be.
Move agenda item number 6, Chairman, to 3A.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Valentine, second by Councilman Lambert. No opposition to the motion. Moved up to 3A. Councilman Shakespeare has arrived. Thank you. Councilman Matassa.
I have your pamphlet up there that shows a letter I got from Zach and Associates on February the 2nd that says that the punch list is all completed on the job, and on the back sheet it has at the bottom all the things that were corrected. So I'm here tonight to close out the project.
Councilman Valentine.
Parish President, everything's okay, in order?
Everything's in order. Basically, we're going to end up with what? 15,000 plus we had some extra pipe that we bought at a good price because the price is going up on pipe, and in future endeavors we can utilize it. The other thing, the sewer part of the jail is being closed out, so this should close out the entire jail project. We're also looking at, since we do have some money left from the bond sale, probably it's about $700 and something thousand, that we may want to put a generator there that can accommodate the entire jail in the event of another hurricane. So that's the last thing that we're going to look at doing there. And also we have a generator to operate the lift station at the jail also, so we don't have any problem. So since we do have a little bit of extra money, we're going to try and go ahead and utilize it and get those generators in place. The last time it was kind of a fiasco when the electricity went out and the storm hit. So.
Okay. Chairman, I'll move that we close out the jail sewer project per Mr. Matassa and the administration's recommendation. Send it to the council.
Motion by Councilman Valentine, second by Councilman Shakespeare to move or close out on the jail project. And would you make sure that get to the agenda, the council? Martinez, I do have a quick question on that generator. Had you priced the generator for the jail?
We have looked at it. I think it's around $70,000 for the generator and maybe $30,000 to install. Am I out of line here, Mr. Matas? I think you went and talked to different people.
No, but we may have to public bid it. That's what we're looking at right now.
Might have to do what?
Public bid.
Public bid it, which is
Public
going to go
bid
through.
it.
Yeah,
we're getting ready to get with purchasing, they were making sure, see, if you use bond money, it has to be okayed by the Bank of New York. So we're kind of waiting on that, because, want to make sure they're going to pay for it, which I don't see why they wouldn't. But as soon as we get okay on that, we're going to do a bid on it.
So we should have anywhere from 595 to 600,000 left after the generator?
Right. The bid with the pipe and putting down the sewer line, actually, when we bid it the second time, came in about $250,000 cheaper than we bid the first time. So that helped us quite a bit along the line, and then we came in under. So it gives us an opportunity to look at this, even though it's not utilities. I'm just trying to give you an update as to which direction we're trying to do. We're going to have to put it out for bids, but we wanted to get a general idea of how much it costs, and that's about what the price it looks like to actually run the entire jail in the event of a power cutoff.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Shakespeare, you have anything? Lambert? Done. Moving right along.
Let me just tell y'all for your information, Councilman Shakespeare and Adrian, the rural water is, today they are smoke testing St. Jude subdivision, which is wanted, that is owned by Density, and I just wanted to let y'all know they're going to give us a report on it.
Well, that
On the
would,
sewer, I'm talking about.
that would have been my only question is if we
I'm
had
sorry.
that money left over, why don't we just take that whole subdivision and put them through?
Density owns the system, and I spoke with him, and he wanted a ton of money for it, and I told him it's a bad system,
Well, we wait till DEQ.
Yeah.
We can't use jail money on the sewer system.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can't use the money.
Yeah,
left
just because
over.
we got a surplus, we can't do that.
Fine. It'll reduce the cost.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, discussion of the, and presentation of the sewer user ordinance. Mr. Larry Shriver.
Councilman, I think you have in front of you a copy of the proposed sewer use ordinance. Here again, it's before when it presented the draft, I believe, I'm pretty sure I pointed out that it is a continuation of the existing ordinance, that smaller packet, Article 19, Consolidated Utilities District. This is actually a continuation of that original ordinance. I might mention that it's been quite thoroughly reviewed. I know President Martinez and his staff have reviewed it, and other staff, Kenny Matassa, and another key person was Laverne Bourgeois in the building department, was instrumental in making sure that the ordinance was coordinated with the parish codes as well as the Louisiana State Plumbing Code. And of course, Tony Fallerman reviewed it very extensively, along with Carla Bourgeois. Carla played a very instrumental part in putting this together. Let's start off by saying that the purpose of the ordinance is really to give the parish the authority to do pretty much all the things that we need to do to run a sewer program, and such as the connection requirements, the rates, sewage or wastewater limitations that are introduced into the system, so they don't harm the wastewater doesn't harm the collection or treatment system. It's also a requirement for the bond commission for us to pursue the $18 million DEQ loan. There's a section, a good bit of the volume of the ordinance is taken up by a section called industrial waste pretreatment, requirements. That is a section, it's a lengthy section from like page 13, I think, to the end of the document. It's an EPA requirement. I guess I could best explain that by example. Some years ago, when there was a construction grants program, the federal government paid for 75% of the wastewater treatment plants with a 10% matching fund from the states. And early on in the program, there were several plants I know I was involved with 1 year ago that had 10 million gallons of wastewater a day from a paper mill and only 1 million gallon a day from the town. But the town applied for the grant for the entire project. And 2 or 3 years later, the EPA realized that they had just funded primarily an industrial wastewater treatment plant with federal money. So they tried to get their money back, they didn't get it back, but anyway, this kind of was born out of that, in that their ultimate decision was that it would be okay for industries to discharge into municipal systems only if they pre-treated their wastewater down to domestic wastewater levels. And there's so many different kinds of industry and everything, it gets a little voluminous, but it's a EPA requirement, and at DEQ, when they see this, they would want that in there for approval, you know, for the loan application. That's about all I have for now. If you have any questions, all right.
Councilman Valentine.
Mr. Shriver, you named a lot of people that have looked over this. What's your expertise dealing with sewer
Oh,
and ordinances?
an ordinance?
Or sewer?
I've been in the wastewater business a little over 40 years.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I've helped write with usually city attorneys or parish attorneys, city attorneys usually, 3 or 4 of them. As a matter of fact, the go-by ordinance that I used for this ordinance was the one for the city of Alexandria, Louisiana, and I was co-author of it with the city attorney back in 1980. And it was, I remember I helped revise it once or twice. I know I did a couple of rate studies also for the city of Alexandria. So it's a good basic,
Right.
utility ordinance.
Yeah, in fact, that was my next question, exactly who do we copy it from? Because I know you're not going to reinvent the wheel, so it's the city of Alexandria.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I recall I brought it from the Midwest, actually.
Right. And it's primarily generic, it appears. Now, I haven't had the whole time. The meeting we had 6 weeks ago, I guess, and then in the parish president's office was one I attended, and then I just got this. I was out of town. I got this back on Sunday, so I hadn't had a chance to really look at it a good bit, but it appears to be fairly generic. It doesn't really specify, unless I missed it, whether we enter an agreement with a second party or not. It's primarily an ordinance on wastewater.
Yeah, it's an ordinance regarding wastewater, and you are pretty much correct. The meat of this ordinance, I'll be honest with you, is from page 2 to 10, or somewhere in it.
Right.
And there's a lot of individual connection requirements that are specific to the project. I know the connection requirements. I discussed the situation with President Martinez about, hey, how are we going to do this? We're going to be laying sewer lines probably not down the middle of existing streets, but on one side or the other, and how do we connect to the people on the other side and so forth. And so there's been quite a bit of thought towards those kind of things,
Right.
specifically regarding this plan.
For instance, an easy question. If we pass this ordinance and it goes into effect, who are our customers immediately?
Wherever we start laying sewer lines, and also.
Well, how about people that we already have?
Well, yes.
For instance, like Country Ridge and
Yes.
our community.
Right.
So they'll immediately go
Replaced it,
to $45?
That's a good possibility. Now, the way I've worded it in the ordinance is that, that user rate for non-metered sources is up to $45 a
Well,
month, yeah.
that was my next question. How does that read in the ordinance? Up to 45? Where's the discretionary? I don't see any breakdown on how you're going to decide that. Who pays what? You did it by household? Number of
Yes.
people in the household?
No, it's just by household, by connection.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how do you determine that? If they have a non-metered place, how do you determine up to 45?
Well, I think that.
Because the ordinance doesn't speak to it that I see.
Well, in other words, the rate per household could be up to $45, and that's the rate that we've been.
Okay, for
Been talking about.
for an unmetered house, how do you
Yeah.
determine? The minimum says it's 24,
Yes, that's for a metered source.
For a metered source.
We have
but you don't have a minimum for a non-metered source, you have up to 45. So in other words,
Right.
45 is the figure.
Yes,
Okay.
because we don't have a way of.
Right, I understand.
Of charging a non-metered source. But it compares, normally a household uses, of an average family, uses 5,000 to 6,000 gallons a month. That's why in my example, I picked 5,500 gallons, $8 a thousand. That comes out, at $46, I think, right at the same price.
So that's how we arrived at the 45. We did 8,000. We did, how much, $8 per thousand?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And the average household is 5,000.
Yes, it's
In
been my
Parish?
experience. It's been my
And you got
experience.
that information from Baton Rouge Water Company?
It's been my experience. It's 5,000 to 6,000 gallons. The 4 studies that I've done, regardless of where you are. Now for example, in the city of Alexandria, when I did their last study, they had metered charges. We used so much 1,000, and I used the council, for example, as examples. And one of the elderly fellows and his wife, lived alone. They only used 2,000 or 3,000 gallons a month, and I was able to determine what their rate was. And another councilman had like $7, if I remember right. The consumption per month was 15,000 gallons.
Right.
But the average was 5,000 to 6,000.
Okay, kind of moving along here. One of the things I noticed as I was reading about the developers and how they pay for their lots, okay? But nowhere in it, and maybe I missed it, maybe you can straighten me out since you've obviously studied this a great deal. There's not a definition of a developer. Do you have a definition of a developer somewhere in here that I've missed? And I'll tell you where I'm going. Classification is this. We got a developer. He develops something, he breaks it into lots, right? We got a family partition, the Sacred Cow of Ascension Parish. So we're going to break it into lots. So are we going to charge a family partition X number of dollars per lot if we break things into lots? It doesn't address that.
It doesn't address that, no.
It doesn't say yes or no. I'm asking what the definition of a developer is. I think we need to define that in this ordinance
Okay.
as a commercially person that's
Yes, I think-
you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I think that'd be a good thing to do.
Yeah, and let's see, the other thing, I hadn't been able to read it all, but there's some situations I don't know, and I haven't studied enough to realize. Past President, when we pass, if we send this to the council, what is it? It's going to be what, 4 weeks before it comes to us?
Yeah, you're gonna have to introduce it as an ordinance,
Right.
then it goes to the council and the public hearing, we have to go ahead and advertise.
2 weeks of
Yeah.
advertisement?
Yep, so,
Okay.
4 weeks, and you can look at it, and if we have any comments, we can certainly look
Right.
at those things. I mean, like,
I got a lot of questions is my
no,
and this is where we need to debate
oh,
in the
definitely,
committee.
I agree.
I don't think we need to be sending it on to the council until we kind of get a lot of things answered here. And that was just one thing I found that I think is key to something that needs to be included.
Okay, yeah.
okay?
And it's-
And the other thing is the $45 fee. I understand we arrived at it, but I just did a Google search today, and I find no one in our area that charges this much for sewer in our area. The highest one I found was, well, there was a St. Tammany that was like $50, but it was a certain little district. But everybody else seems to be $33 or under. So, and we're charging $25 now. So I know several years ago, it was $85, at least that's what they said we had to do. Now all of
Yeah.
a sudden it's 45. But we arrived at that from how?
It was arrived at,
From $8.
Yeah, that, like I said.
$8 per thousand, but how did we arrive
Well,
at $8 per thousand?
Also, like you mentioned, there was very few places in the state that had, user fees of anything over $50, and so
Yeah.
we wanted to be in line with other.
Well, and the thing that I know a little bit about it, not much, but I mean, for instance, the largest wastewater in the parish, I mean, he requested a
Right.
fee rate recently, last year. He
Yes, sir.
scrutinized for a whole year. He finally got his fees raised to $32, and he's a private individual.
Right.
So I'm just wondering why we're setting it at that substantial amount, much more than what the PSC, who governs the private ones, gave him.
Well,
I understand as a government entity, we're really not under the PSC, right? And we can charge what we want.
yes.
But I don't want to charge people of Ascension Parish an outrageous fee.
Well, I think his original request, though, I believe was for $43 something, and I'm not sure if, the word I got was the reason why the Public Service Commission did not grant that much was because he has no capital investment. All those facilities were deeded back to him for nothing from the, I was going to say developer, but from the, so that's why, the main reason why they wouldn't go as high as he wanted. So that would be an exception. Also, another comment is that most municipalities especially have other forms of financing that don't show up in the user fee. And in reality, though, if you would equate the total amount of money that's collected for sewer, for example, in Baton Rouge, I think it's collected around $90, $85 or $90 a month, if you would equate all of the levies and millage and so forth.
And I understand that. For instance, all
Yeah.
three of our municipalities, it's all below the $45, but
Yeah.
they got water, and I understand.
Yeah.
The connecting fees, if I read this right, I heard $1,500, now I see $500. Is that what I'm reading correctly?
It's $500 for, excuse me, developed, let's see, how did I word this? Improved property on existing streets. It was 500. And then the terminology was for the other new developments, I call that a development fee instead of a connection fee, because it's more collected as a development fee.
So improved property on existing streets means
Yes, sir.
somebody that's already has
A home
a
or
home, been living there for 20 years,
Well,
we're going to charge them $500 for a connecting fee.
I actually had in mind there, rather than, it could be a home, or it could be, I guess, a shop, or anything, a barn or anything, but it would have a restroom with a connection. You see, in other words, if there is a connection from a facility, it wouldn't have to necessarily be a residential home. If it was,
Right.
somebody that had a restroom, though, and they actually had the 4-inch connection over, at the property line.
Okay, that's all I have right now, Chairman Thompson.
Let Martin has to go and see what he has to say.
I was just gonna say also that the reason why a lot of them are cheap, like he was saying, that they supplement it, and like Baton Rouge now, every year for the next, I don't know how many years, they're gonna be going up on their fees, and it's basically a property tax that goes up. So if you look at it, you may be one of the cheapest. I know Gonzales subsidizes their sewer. I don't know what goes on in Donaldsonville on that and what the fees are, but when we were charged with coming up with a plan and negotiating, that was the number that was given to us, $45 or less to look at.
Right.
And I guess if you're starting from scratch, you're going to have to build the infrastructure and pay for the infrastructure, whereas like Mr. Petrie, he has all his infrastructure in there. He didn't have to pay for that. But right now, a lot of his infrastructure is in bad shape, and he would have to actually go make a loan to get those facilities back into place and make a capital investment. We're going to have to make an initial capital investment that's going to cost a heck of a lot more to start with. So if you want to look at the $45, I think that's the difference in us paying or us coming up with the number 45 as opposed to someone that's already in the business.
Well, and I agree with you, Parish President, and I certainly, I'm questioning it, but I mean, and the reason why is because technically, even though the council voted to go after the integral plan or whatever, we really don't have a plan. We're not sure where we're going. Because right at the present time, we're going to have a joint venture. Either we're going to own it and they're going to do the work for us, or they're going to own it.
I think we've settled that.
Well, I don't know where we're going, so I hadn't been on the end on how we settled it yet. But I need to be brought up to date because I don't know where we're going to end up.
Right.
And so, you know, if we're going to go this alone, then it may be different.
Right.
If we're going to go with someone that they're going to charge us fees and they're going to do this, 10% here, 20% over here, then 45 might not be enough. I mean, that's a problem.
I agree.
So
that's what I'm saying.
So that's what I'm saying. And almost like we kind of out in front here. And the 6 weeks ago, I know there was a situation that said, well, we needed to hurry up and get this ordinance done so we could get to 18 million. Now, obviously, that's still a problem. We're still struggling to try to get this done, but then we don't want to pass something into law that's going to affect people now that's, you know, paying 25. But obviously, that's what's going to happen, and that's okay.
Well,
that's what it is.
If you recall, though, the people that's paying, I think it's 30, not 25, basically, or, I mean, we subsidizing those systems right now.
And it needs to be up. I agree with you.
So, again, that solves that problem with this ordinance.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So,
I don't have a problem with that.
you know, and that's kind of what we were looking at also, if you're going to be across the board. But we got plenty of time. If you want to sit down and discuss this with Mr. Shriver or anybody with the staff, we are certainly over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
And if it has to be amended. If it's something you don't like, then we don't have to vote on it.
I understand.
I'm okay.
I understand.
But we up for discussion.
Right. Well, I'm still discovering, okay?
Good.
Councilman Chestnut.
Thank you, and I appreciate it, Larry, all the work y'all have done. Obviously, there's a lot of work being done on this, and we appreciate it, something to move forward finally. I do understand, I share Mr. Valentine's concern about the cost, but after looking into it and finding out the cost of putting new sewer in the ground right now, it's almost ridiculous how much it does cost, so I am appreciative of that. And also, I do know the situation with the present providers that have these sewer systems that were given to them by the developers, and for the most part, are in a situation right now where they have to upgrade a great deal because of their output that they're doing, and it's not up to standards right now. So
Yes, that's correct. And there's new effluent standards coming down the
well, and one of a couple of my problems is that we take over the systems that historically people have been paying whatever, $25, $30, $35 a piece, and then the minute we take it over, it comes to $45, and that's all people are going to know, because we're going to have to bring it up to standards.
Right.
We're going to have all the added expense to bring it up to standards, but people don't see that. And then now we're going to be buying systems, and I was trying to read and understand, before we take over a system, it has to be up to standards.
No, it would be probably pretty much almost impossible for them to to do that. However, DEQ has told us that they would be willing to work with us. When traditionally what happens if another entity buys, either another private entity buys another private entity, DEQ has to approve that along, of course, I think with the Public Service Commission, and they have to, the new owners have to come up with a plan. And it's a plan to show how you're going to take care of the situation coming into the future. And so for us, one of our plans, major plan that we have is to start consolidating as many of these plants as we can to, in fact, eliminate that effluent discharge.
Well, but my question is, why should we have to pay to buy something that we're gonna have to spend probably as much money on upgrading it? We're kind of paying twice.
Well, that's how that happens is we're still out on that.
The system might not be worth anything, but 12,000 customers is worth a whole lot, and also the right-of-way that
The
they
right-of-way.
already have acquired is worth something. So, bottom line is the public service utility is not going to allow you to just take customers, just go in and take their customers. You're going to
I
have
mean,
to
that's basically what,
compensate them
that's
for.
basically what they did already,
Right.
is they were giving the customers,
Right.
and they were given a system that was brand new, and then we're gonna take the old system and have to buy customers. So, I mean, I just wanna make sure that we negotiate.
Depend on which way you go with this deal.
Okay.
You're probably not going to have to buy it if the private company's going to have to buy it, and they're going to have to assume the responsibility. At the last meeting that we had, we discussed it in those terms.
Okay. All right.
And they're going to donate it back to the parish, but retain the liability.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know if I should disclose that, but that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in other words, we have taken that into account and we're moving forward in those areas. Okay. Because, I mean, I was a concern there that we protect ourselves. Okay.
That meeting, but we haven't come to any conclusions. We threw out things that they wanted, and we threw out things that we wanted. We hashed over every deal point and went over it. So,
Okay.
that was one of the big deal points.
Okay.
You know, if we were going to buy it, I don't want to look too much here. but,
Right.
You know, if you're gonna buy it, you're gonna assume responsibility. If you're gonna donate it back to the parish, you're gonna still assume the liability.
Okay.
That's basically where we're at today.
All right. The other thing is the connection fees and things. Let's just say if you're an individual home, and I understand on a subdivision, let's say, development, where they have a central plant. When we take over that, do the individual homeowners have to pay the $500 connecting fee?
As of now, the way we interpret it, no. I'm thinking there, we just kept coming back to that, and most of the comments turned up, hey, they've already paid once. And we didn't feel that we could charge them again. Because
With that in mind,
we'll be
I
picking up.
understand. If that's the way you're gonna do that, which is fine. I mean, if we're gonna use that, then we also need to take into account individuals that pay for their sewer plant and is maintaining their sewer plant and now has to, within 60 days, come up with $500 and connect to that. That can be very expensive.
But
Is that a way?
that's not the way it works, I don't think.
Well, I'm just, and please, as they say, correct me if I'm right. It says, number two, owner of all houses, buildings, and properties, it says, that is now located or may be in the future, public center combined, he is hereby required at his or her expense to install suitable toilet facilities there and connect such facilities directly with the proper public sewer in accordance with the provisions of this article, within 60 days, if you're within 300 feet.
Yes. Yes.
And then they say the connection fee is $500.
On the subdivision,
Only-
basically the way it was looked at, if the developer pays for all the infrastructure up front and all the connections up front,
Yeah, the developer paid
he's
for
already put in all the infrastructure, the parish won't have to, the utility district doesn't have to put that.
And that's fine, I understand that, that's no problem. But if an individual does the same thing, then shouldn't they be granted the same thing? Okay, in other words, if I've got my sewer plant behind my house, if I run my sewer up to your line that you put in the front and connect it, shouldn't I be able to do that for no connection fee also? I mean, I've got to pay to have somebody to do it.
Excuse me, can't you mind? 1 second, might be clarified a little bit.
Okay?
Larry, when you put the $500 for tie-in, it's like the system that you have in the Darrow system, the new sewer system, that the grant paid for the system. Anybody tie in now in Darrow area a lot, they have to pay $500 impact fee. And if the line runs in front of the house, they have to tie it in, right?
Yes.
That's the way that's set up.
Yeah.
I was under the impression when you and I talked and we went through this ordinance that anybody that has an existing MODAD right now that goes bad and they have to put in a new system would have to pay the full tie-in fee if you have sewer out there.
Well, if it goes bad, and they have to, yes, connect for the $500 connection fee.
It's $2,500 because the
$2,500
because the system went bad. If you went and bought a new system,
Right.
you would have to pay $2,500
Right.
or more.
Okay.
So what if we do meet, what if we have one that's been fairly new and has been operating?
Well, you don't have to tie in until that system go bad and you force it to tie in.
That's kind of what we had discussed, but the ordinance doesn't say that. The ordinance says if you're within,
And that was my only thing, and that was my understanding, is that if you have an individual and they run a line in front of you, my understanding when we started talking about this, that you had the option to connect if you wish to, or if you didn't, if you wanted to continue with your MODAD that you had paid for, and most of them around $3,000, $3,500 now.
Yes, that's right.
That you could continue to do that until it becomes in non-compliance, and then you had to hook up. That was my understanding.
Well,
But the option was $500 at that time when they run the line in front of you.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you wait and your system go bad, you have to pay that full $2,500.
Yes, there's so many different scenarios, that it was very difficult to try to nail down every example that
Right.
might be possible. So
I
this
just think that's a big area.
It
where
is.
You have individuals that have individual sewer plants that they paid for,
right,
okay?
yes,
I think if they're going to, you're not going to get those customers unless you put some incentive for them to hook up at some point in time when you run your line.
right.
You know, why should I hook up? I've got a perfectly good, what I consider perfectly good. It might not meet standards now.
Yes.
If we go around and we have to meet standards, then it may be cost prohibitive for me, and I may have to hook up.
Right.
But I want to know that. And so just please look up, study that and let us know what.
Well, this concept that I had, with knowing that about all these different possibilities, that this was a good place to start, and we'd hopefully grow into it with the plan that we have now. There's going to be several months and probably into next year before we get into a lot of these situations, and we're going to know more then than we know now, and we can
There's no way you can
make
cover
amendments.
everything. We understand,
Yeah.
but that's why I think it's important for us to
Right.
bring a couple of things to you.
Right.
And then
Oh, I agree.
you decide what's best to solve those problems, but I can foresee that as a big problem because you have such a large group of people that do have individual MODADs that were
Yes.
paid for.
That's very true.
And that we do have to address that in some way. That's fair to them also.
That's correct,
You know,
yes.
because the perception of them having to pay twice is a lot different.
Right, I know that was a
So-
personal dilemma when I was putting this together, knowing that, like you say, and the price of those things are going up all the time.
Yeah,
I think
plus
it's
they have
at,
to
I
pump
think
out
it's
the
at more
piston.
like 3,500 or 4,000 now, because I
Yeah.
just priced one myself, but you're right.
Yeah.
We'll be looking into that.
And you have to pump it out and fill it up.
Yeah.
Let me see what else. I had a bunch of engineering.
Look that over, Mr. Shakes.
Yeah,
I
I'm,
had to cut just two things real quick.
wait, I yield to Mr. Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Mr. Larry, on the right-of-way issue, it's Ascension Parish. We're gonna be dealing with the, acquiring our own right-of-way.
In some, yes, in many cases.
That's an awful big.
Yes, it is.
President.
Both agreements, neither one of the companies agreed to do the right-of-way. Neither one of them wanted to do acquiring the right-of-way. Hopefully, we can stay within public roadways and public servitude. If someone wants to, if you got a 400-foot line that needs to be brought to tie into the main line, well, it's going to be up to that individual homeowner to do that. I mean, we're not going to go buy servitude to lay a line. They're going to have to come meet our line.
Yeah.
So hopefully, in most cases, that, that can happen. It's not going to happen in every case. I mean, we're going to have some situation, but it's kind of like water. I mean, a lot of people have water available now in Ascension Parish that don't utilize because they got a well. Now, if the well goes out, I can assure you what they're going to do is they're going to hook up to Baton Rouge water. I mean, we got to kind of look at this probably from the same situation and try to figure out a way to do it. I mean, I'm okay. We're not in any hurry on this as far as if you want to take another 2 weeks and look at it and maybe in those 2 weeks come back and communicate with Larry on this and our legal and discuss different issues that you have, and maybe we can have some remedies. I think that would be the best thing.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Pat.
We can't answer every question here tonight. We're not prepared to do so.
And this really, and that's why I kind of was preferenced at the beginning, this really doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing on the other side with Integra,
No, this is.
correct? This is just something that we need to do in order to qualify for the $18 million. And that's what I want to make sure we include whatever, if you leave something out important, I mean, I'm real interested in what Mr. Shakes now is saying here. We got, sewer treatment plants that are not up to par, and we're going to buy them.
Right.
And we need to make sure that.
But that's
that-
in the
that
negotiation.
Right, that, I know it's negotiated, but there ought to be something in this ordinance where we got some protection, because sometimes I ain't crazy about negotiators,
No.
okay?
But anyway, that's why they got draft on here. Hopefully
I
we
got
can,
you, I got you, Pat.
start working from there.
And I appreciate that from the administration, the willingness to do that.
Yeah, nope, it's not a do or die at this moment. But we do have, the main component with this thing to get the DQ loan is to set a rate scale.
Right.
That's the imperative thing that we have to do. Now, that can always be amended. That's anything that you do here with this ordinance, you can always amend an ordinance.
Right, I
That's
understand.
not a problem.
Yeah.
But to me, that's the thing that I wish you'd work on first and maybe come back with something, and it's not going to really go into effect basically till we get our loan, which will probably be
Right.
next year anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be a
6
while,
months?
6 months, yeah. So,
but-
anyway,
Yeah.
but
When you pass ordinance, it's an ordinance now.
we need to establish the rate fee is the key component
Yeah.
at this point.
Yes.
Mr. Larry, what about the part in the ordinance that any new subdivision come on that instead of donating the system to a user that is donated to the parish, have we looked at how we could get that done?
Yes, sir, that's here, that's in there.
Again, say,
Yes, it's on,
I don't have,
it's on page 4,
Yeah.
okay,
on page 4, item M.
okay. I don't have mine with me. Where is it?
Hang on.
Keep in mind that you don't have to adopt this whole ordinance. If you want to do this is just an amendment to our existing ordinance. So if you want to amend that part, Adrian, you
Okay.
can go ahead and do that as a separate amendment. You don't have to adopt the whole set of amendments at one time.
System comes to the parish.
Okay, thank you for that, Parish President. If you don't mind, I have one other thing. Mr. Larry, on the,
We had thought we had that.
on the mechanical and the, where we're gonna use the wetlands for some of the, disbursement. Can you get that separated out so we can kind of get that out to the folks to see?
Well, as of right now, the way, there's another document that's being prepared called the facility plan. And because of the new discharge requirements that DEQ has made us aware of, coming down, probably taking effect in about 3 years from now, 3 or 4 years from now, that we may probably, or may not be, probably not be using wetlands assimilation.
When did this come about?
Well, it's fairly new, recent, and it's something that we had to take into account. It's still not off the table, but it's just would be a difference of discharge location. We'll have to meet the same, basically same levels of nutrient removal down to nitrogen levels down to a certain amount, and but it may be that it might be better to do it by a point source discharge rather than try to do wetlands assimilation.
Go ahead.
To get the DEQ loan, you have to have a facilities plan. The facilities plan we already paid for in 2002 on with the Corps. We're going to try, and we worked with the Corps, we met with the Corps, we're going to try, rather than starting fresh with a new facilities plan. It says you have to have a facilities plan. It doesn't say you have to exactly follow the facility.
Right.
So what we're doing right now is, since we've already paid for a facility plan, we want a facilities plan. And we're going to get a facilities plan from the Corps. We're having them to adjust it the way it would work out, basically, to what DQ's wishes were. So to answer your question about the wetlands assimilation, it's not off the table. Bottom line is, we were told that, like as Larry said, that it may be, you go ahead and put your money in, put your infrastructure in now. 5 years from now, we may tell you that you can't do that.
Yeah.
So if you want to raise the money now, to have the possibility of raising the money, look at it from that angle. You may want to look at putting it in the big stream, the Mississippi River. It's basically where they'd like to see everything go, because right away they realize that you won't have those problems in the future. They're not telling you that you cannot do the wetlands assimilation. What they're saying is, in the future, you may not be able to utilize it. And if you're not going to be ready to do it in 5 years, you may end up planning, doing all this stuff, and then ending up with new laws that won't allow you to do so. So, I mean, there's a lot going on here at the time that we're trying to get in the sewer business with laws and changes in laws. And, of course, we're trying to work as closely as we can with DEQ to come out with the best plan. But right now, you don't want to start over with a facilities plan. You don't want to go spend another $1 million we spent with the Corps to come up with a facilities plan when you're already paid for that facilities plan.
Yeah.
So again, that's basically where we're at.
Yeah, the infrastructure remains the same.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, especially since the parish president has suggested we delay this for a couple of weeks and then come back with another utilities committee meeting. With the motion, I want to make sure that every councilman gets a copy of this. I'm not sure that they do. I think just the utilities committee may have had it. So let's make sure that every councilman gets a copy of this proposal on the ordinance, and that way everybody will have the same information we have.
I second that.
We got a motion by Councilman Valentine, second by Councilman Lambert, that we send the draft version to every councilman where they can have a look at this new ordinance. And we come back in 2 to 3 weeks, well, the next utility committee meeting, and bring it back up and take a look at it with the necessary changes.
Do we have a special meeting or something in a couple of weeks?
It might be a good idea to come in the next meeting, so we give everybody a chance. I mean, I'd like to sit down, Mr. Shriver, myself, kind of go over it.
And if anybody have any question, concerns on what's in this ordinance, they need to meet with the administration and sit down and let's talk about it, and figure we can try to come to some type of agreement.
Thank you,
Just,
Parish.
you can email us the questions. If anybody's got any questions as they come about as you're reading it, just email it, and we'll make sure that we try to address it in the best way we can. And if we can't, we'll just bring it when we come back to a discussion.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
And thank Carla for the hard work you put into this. We appreciate it.
Carla.
We're gonna make you work a little bit hard. Okay, agenda item number 5, the discussion of the lighting district. I've been having some problems when somebody called me for a light. I write the work order, get for the light to be put up, and I think some cases it's been energy, and maybe other cases it's been the parish making decisions. I don't know what we have to do, but I think we need to try to have the same person that we have to deal with further is getting lights put up in the lighting district. The money is there. And long as that we follow the law, once we ask to put a light up, I don't care if it's on top of this courthouse. If it's legal and the light there, I think we should put it up. No, I know we should put it up because the councilman has the control over the lighting districts.
That was the key words you just said.
That might light a problem.
That's the problem.
Okay?
Well, I remember if you want to designate someone, as I told you before when we went out to check these lights, if you want to designate, now we do charge the lighting districts if we utilize a parish employee to go out and check lights, do things like that. We stated that before. Now, if you want to designate a particular person to do so, we can do so.
Well, I don't see why that'd be a problem.
But you got to, you the councilman in that district have to make that request.
Well, I'm making that request.
Okay, so anybody in particular that you,
Not yet, we'll figure it out. But anyway, when we request this, it's like the situation this meeting you and I went to,
right?
okay? We wasn't communicated with on that.
Well, that's the first I had heard of it when you called me because you're in charge of it.
Well, we need to follow the procedure. All I'm asking.
Maybe we need to set procedure so we can
We
follow.
supposed to have one in place.
Okay. I hadn't seen it. So I'm willing to work with you. I just need
I
to-
don't have a light district, so I don't have a dog in this fight. I know Mr. Checksnyder does, Mr. Joseph does, you do yourself, right?
Yeah.
Is that the only 3? I mean, maybe y'all need to get together and get a service contract with the parish, us guys that, and then parish president can authorize somebody to lend ear to you 3 fellows and take care of your problems. I mean, if that's what the problem is, then designate, then that comes, I mean, you got people out there, your constituents are paying fees for the lighting district, and they want the service done.
That's
So
correct.
you may have to direct somebody to do that.
Well, the problem ends up, we met with DOTD on a couple of different occasions and recently on the West Bank. If you want to put lights on the highway now, DOTD has different standards. You got to have an engineer, hire an engineer to go out and come back and with the drawings, and it has to be, we can't just go draw 'em. So it causes a lot of problems, then it takes a long time to get it approved, and so things have changed in the lighting district world also, to whereas we just couldn't deal with a David Herring, say, or somebody else and tell them to go and put the lights out on. So now you got to have all these procedures, so maybe you need to revisit the procedure, and I know Ken had a 2-year ordeal, basically, to try and get 4 or 5 lights put
Year
up.
ordeal. Basically, what they're doing is that, yes, we had $25,000, we wanted to put up 12 lights right there in front of the Walmart in Downsville. and we're gonna have to spend $25,000 on engineering on a simple 4-lane highway that they have all over the state of Louisiana to decide the design on what type of lights they're gonna put there.
And they want to know if they want ornate lights or regular lights, and stuff like that.
State DOTD, it's not us.
Oh, yeah, that's DOTT. Ronnie has been trying to work it out, and he's been beating his head up against the wall, and that's basically what it is, just beating your head up against the wall. But the people of this parish gonna have to spend a lot of money on DOTT job, which I think is totally ridiculous, that they can't tell us that they got a standard thing for this state on 4-lane highways with the median, and we could follow. If you tell us the standards, we'd be glad to follow it, but it's ridiculous to spend that extra money. I think people are
Well,
just ashamed.
It's a whole lot different, as I said, and maybe we need to set up some sort of procedure to do it, and then guidelines to follow, and then we'll do it. But, basically, I mean, we'll get screamed at because they're not up, but it's not our fault. I mean, we do what we're supposed to do. Rhino will go to DOTD, and then they say they need this, they need that, and they need to change this, and do you want ornate lights or you want regular lights? I mean, golly, I mean.
Same lights they have now?
So, no, I mean, I'm saying the questions that we get asked on that. So, we'll set up a procedure if you'd like, Mr.
I would like that.
And bring it back to you for your approval.
We have-
Also like to approach.
We have a procedure, and I think we
Yeah.
gave it to you.
Yeah, we
We
also,
have a procedure.
You have a procedure, but they might have to be updated, right? Or we can continue.
Not for the parish lights, state lights,
Okay,
state road.
okay,
parish procedure works out pretty good,
okay.
And I'm not working.
but,
Well, we can
Yeah,
just now the other alternative, Mr. Thompson, if that's not good, you can certainly hire somebody out of that district to go ahead and do this work. I mean, you're in charge of it. So,
I'd also like you to look at our state delegation to see if there's something they can do with those guidelines from the DODT. I don't think they realize what that is.
It's been 4 years and some lights on 75. 4 lights on Highway 75 is not up yet.
that's state road.
State road, you're right. It's a state
I mean,
road.
again, we can do what we can do, but we can't make the state do
Well, that's why we
anything.
got administration to work with us on this to get this done.
Well,
The process.
if you want, we'll put, it's a slow process when you end up working
very
with the
slow.
state.
Thank you. That's all I got on that. Anybody else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Valentine, second by Councilman Shakespeare to adjourn.